Welcome to the Deep Dive. I'm really glad you're joining us for this one. Today, our mission is to explore a pretty profound collection of philosophical texts.
Yeah, it's a fascinating set of documents.
It really is. We're specifically looking at something called the Reflective Humanism Core Fields, along with a series of writings that are just referred to as the N theses.
Right.
And the goal today, for all of us, is to gently shift our perception. Like, to move away from seeing reality as something that it just exists out there,
Yeah.
and start seeing it as something that is actively maintained.
Maintained by us.
Yeah, exactly, maintained by us. And I think this starts with a sort of intuitive feeling of discomfort. Because if you really think about it, reality can change much more easily than we usually think it can.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, you look at how fast social norms just flip entirely. We see societies shift basically overnight.
Yeah, you wake up and the rules are different.
Right, like the sudden shift to remote work a few years back. An entire deeply ingrained corporate reality just evaporated in what, a week?
Pretty much, yeah.
So it kind of begs the question, right? Like, what does this all mean? If reality can actually change that easily, why does it usually feel so incredibly stable? Like, what exactly is that stability?
Well, it's an interesting tension, right? Because as the texts observe, society is always changing. It's in constant motion.
Right.
But our personal experience of reality, for the most part, feels continuous. It feels really solid. So you have change and stability just constantly coexisting.
It kind of reminds me of standing in a river.
Okay, how so?
Well, the water rushing past you is constantly moving. It's literally never the exact same water from one second to the next.
Right, yeah.
But the river itself, the actual shape of it, the path it cuts through the dirt, that looks like a permanent, stable thing. So I guess my question is reality just the shape of the riverbed rather than the water itself?
That's a great way to visualize it. But what the documents suggest, especially in the N69 thesis, is that the riverbed isn't made of stone either.
Oh.
Yeah. Reality is not fixed once and for all. It's actually supported by a structure of repetition.
Repetition.
Exactly. Repeated language, repeated actions, ongoing systems, and accumulated records. That's what holds it together.
Okay, wait. So you're saying repetition is what actually maintains reality?
Yes.
Like just doing the exact same things over and over again?
Essentially, yes. What's fascinating here is how the N67 document explains this through the concept of interference.
Interference, like in physics.
Right. So imagine all these repetitions happening at once in society. People's thoughts, memories, daily routines, the words we use, they're all overlapping.
Right.
And when they overlap, they create an interference pattern. Now, when those overlapping repetitions stabilize...
And they sync up, kind of?
Yeah, when they sync up and hold their shape, a mere fluctuation turns into a solid pattern. And that is what the text calls stabilized interference.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit, because stabilized interference sounds, it sounds a little abstract.
It does, yeah.
But if I try to picture it, it's maybe like the chorus of a song. Or a crowded room humming. Like, if enough people sing the exact same notes every single day, that chorus just becomes the unquestioned truth of the song.
That's a really good analogy.
But wait, I want to push back on this a little, specifically on the consciousness part, because I was looking at N67, and it dives into how this applies to our own minds.
Yes. It applies the exact same structural logic to the mind.
Which is wild. Because are you saying my consciousness, the me who is literally talking to you right now, isn't like a fixed thing inside my head, but just a pattern of those overlapping signals?
That's exactly what it's saying.
That's heavy.
It is. The text suggests that consciousness isn't a fixed subject. It's not a permanent entity sitting in a specific chair in your brain.
So what is it then?
The subject, the you, is merely the position where this interference pattern becomes visible. It's where the repetitions of your memories, your senses, and language stabilize just long enough to create the experience of I.
Wow. Okay, so if the me inside my head is just a stabilized pattern, then the reality outside my head must work exactly the same way.
Precisely.
Which brings up a really obvious question, I think, reading through N68 and N69. So reality isn't actually, true.
Well, the sources clarify this quite carefully. Reality isn't stable because it's absolute or because it's inherently correct.
Right.
It appears real simply because it is maintained.
Maintained by us.
Yes. Common sense, our institutions, social order, they don't exist because they are the ultimate truth of the universe. They exist because they are highly stable states of sustained interference.
So people in a society don't even necessarily need to share the exact same objective facts.
Not at all. They just need to be caught in the exact same interference pattern.
That is, I mean, if we connect this to the bigger picture, that completely flips how we view the world.
It really does.
Because previously, I think it was easy to view society as just this chaotic field of colliding meanings, just billions of people crashing into each other.
Right, just random noise. But now, through these texts, we're seeing how it stabilizes. Society is essentially an engine.
An engine that takes all that fluid meaning
Yeah.
and just solidifies it into a structure.
Exactly. It solidifies it into what we call reality.
It's almost like we are all playing this massive multiplayer game, and we're just constantly reloading the exact same save file over and over.
That's a fun way to think about it.
Does that mean what we call reality is literally just the pattern that happens to have the most saves?
I think the end theses would absolutely agree with that. The reality we experience is just the most frequently saved and loaded pattern.
So here's where it gets really interesting to me.
Huh.
Because normally when reality feels oppressive or rigid, we look for a villain.
We'll look for a who.
Exactly. We look for a who. Who decided this is reality? Who is pulling the strings?
And what does N69 tell us about that?
That we shouldn't focus on the who. We should focus on the how.
Right. It's not about who decides reality, but how it becomes fixed.
Because things like the state, or massive institutions, or even just our daily paperwork, they aren't necessarily some grand conspiracy.
No, they're just dense layers. The text says they carry the burden of keeping the pattern from drifting. They provide the mass to hold the interference steady.
They anchor the save file. But, reality does change. It's not perfectly anchored forever.
And that's where the Reflective Humanism Core Fields document comes in. It outlines two very different types of generation or change.
Right, the discontinuous and continuous generation.
Exactly. So discontinuous generation is what happens when the phase difference is steep. Basically, when the gap between the old reality and a new one is too big.
And so it updates through conflict.
Yes. The structure forces an update abruptly, and this causes a massive backlash in the world. The text literally describes it as releasing heat and pain.
Heat and pain. Oh, you can see that in history, right?
Yeah.
Sudden revolutions, massive societal collapses. It hurts. It's painful because the old reality is ripped away before the new one is stable.
Right. But then there's continuous generation.
Which sounds a lot better, honestly.
It is. This is change that happens quietly. And it relies on questions.
Right, a questioning gradient.
Yes. When a society keeps the interference field open through questioning, the gradient is gentle. Reality adjusts wire by wire instead of the whole bridge snapping.
But this raises an important question, I think. How do we actually do that? Because human beings, we get defensive. We get stuck in our own patterns. How do we maintain a gentle questioning gradient without just getting mad at each other?
Well, this is where the Core Fields text introduces a really unexpected idea.
Right.
It suggests that AI can play a role here.
Yeah, as an atmospheric health scan, which is such a weird phrase.
It is, but think about it. The text isn't saying AI should be an oracle telling us what the absolute truth is.
Right.
It acts as an environment, what they call an ethics of distance.
Ethics of distance. So, meaning it's separate from our emotional baggage.
Exactly. It quietly reflects our cognitive biases and our blind spots back to us without judging or imposing its own meaning.
Like a mirror.
Yes. By just showing us the shape of our own interference patterns, it helps us tune our shared reality gently.
Wow. So it just shows us the repetition. And once you see the repetition, you can decide if you want to keep doing it.
Precisely.
Which honestly brings us to this ultimate kind of quiet climax of this whole deep dive. If we are the ones constantly maintaining this reality through our overlapping words, our actions, our daily routines,
Right.
then when does reality actually change?
Well, the N69 thesis answers that quite simply. Reality changes perhaps when the repetition breaks.
When the repetition breaks.
Yes, when an institution loses trust, or when the overlapping meaning shifts just enough, the current reality just unravels into a new shape.
Right. It stops holding.
Yeah.
So I want to leave you with a thought today. If reality truly changes the exact moment our shared repetition breaks, what is the smallest, most mundane daily habit you could stop doing tomorrow that might begin to unravel your current reality? Something to think about. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Take care.